ואהבת לרעך כמוך. Love your fellow as yourself. זה כלל גדול בתורה. This is the great rule of the Torah. So we have to understand this idea, klal. Klal in Hebrew means rule, something that kol comes from the word everything, encompasses everything. So what is this idea that this loving your fellow as yourself is the mitzvah that encompasses everything? That when I put on tefillin, it has to include Ahavat Israel. When I learn Torah, it has to be done with Ahavat Israel. Every single mitzvah, when I keep Shabbat, when I eat matzah on Pesach, every mitzvah that I do has to include the love for my fellow Jew. And if it doesn't, it's lacking. Because it says in Klal Gadol Torah, this is the rule, the general rule of the Torah. Hasidim explain that there is two loves. Ahavat Israel, that goes parallel to Ahavat Hashem, the love of God. Now in the Hayom Yom, there is a question, what is more important? To love God or to love your fellow? And it's like asking me, what do you want? Should I love you or love your son? Any father would say, I'd rather have you treat my son nicely than treat me nicely. So God also says, you want to love me, love your fellow. You love every single Jew, and that's the ultimate way of showing our deep love for Hashem. The way we treat others is the way that we get close to Hashem. And this will lead us to love God. So, as important as it is to show love, it's also to have empathy, to feel the pain of another person, to be able to know how is he feeling. To do that is very important, to listen to people. And of course, true love means that I will never want to hurt anybody in any way or cause them discomfort or embarrass them. And there is a beautiful story about the rabbi of Rodazov that had a very dedicated chassid, that he could not have children, and he suffered terribly. And every year, on every occasion, he will ask his rabbi, he says, please bless me, I want to have children. That's so important for me. Nothing. One day, the rabbi of Zikov, which happens to be the brother of the rabbi of Rozadov, meets this chassid and says, if you want to have children, come spend Rosh Hashanah with me. Says, I promise you, you spend Rosh Hashanah with me, you have children. So the chassid was so happy, but out of respect, he went to his rabbi and says, Rabbi, you know, your brother said this and this. Oh, by all means, I know how much you want to have children. If he assured you that you'll have children, I'm sure the blessing will come through. By all means, go. Comes Rosh Hashanah. And who's sitting in the shul in Rozadov? This chassid. And the rabbi walks over and says, what happened? I thought you wanted to have a child to go to my brother. He assured you, says Rabbi. As much as I want to have a child, but you've been my rabbi my whole life. People know I'm childless. People know that I ask you for blessings, and nothing happened. What will happen if I will go to your brother, just one Rosh Hashanah, and I will have a child? People will say, Chas v'shalom, that your brother is greater than you. And who will be the reason of that? Me. I don't want that on my achrayut, on my responsibility. I'd rather be childless than cause you that embarrassment or distress. When the rabbi of Rozadov heard that, he says, I assure you, if that's the case, that you will have a child this year. And the rabbi was quick to assure those, to tell the people around him, don't think that I'm a great tzaddik, that abilities to give such a blessings. But when a Jew has such a deep concern of Ahavat Israel, love for another one, and is willing to give up what he desires most in his life in order to protect somebody else's honor, that person has opened all the gates to Hashem, all the gates to blessings, and I'm sure that God will give him a child. So we find something similar to this when Moshe is told by God, go and liberate the Jews, and he's reluctant. Why is he reluctant? He says, but my older brother, Aaron, he should be the one leading the Jewish people. He should be the Mashiach. I don't want to take the mantle of leadership and cause embarrassment to my brother. So even though God was telling me you should be the Mashiach, he says, I don't want to slide my brother. I don't want to do anything against Ahavat Israel. They tell the story of the Gaon de Vilna that once was sitting in his sukkah and learning, very immersed in his books, and somebody came to greet him, and he didn't lift his eyes from the book, and the person felt terrible. And a while later, he says, Rabbi, what did I do to you? Why did you ignore me on Sukkot? To what the rabbi said, I'm sorry, I didn't realize. I'm so sorry. Please accept my apology, forgive me, and I bless you to live to 100 years. Now, this man, when he was 98, once he was ill and they told him you have to go to the doctor, you have to do this, the other treatment. I said, nah, I don't need to do anything. I have a blessing to live to 100 years, and I will. And so it was. On his 100th birthday, he passed away. So this sensitivity not to offend anybody is very important, even when halacha is at stake. They tell the story of the Vishnitzer Rebbe that once came to town, and the Hasidim complained. They said, listen, the Shoichet is too old and he refuses to retire, and it's an issue. What do we do? You have to tell them that's it. You can't do shchita anymore. But the Rebbe had a smart way to go about it. He invited him to eat, and when the time for the grace after meals came, he says, my custom is that the guest, especially someone as important as you, should lead the benchum. So he filled up a cup of wine, and he says, you lead with the kosher brachas. We learned this morning how important is the 15th blessing, to hold the cup of wine in your right hand and say the grace after meals. As he's holding the wine, his hand is shaking, wine flying all over the place. And the shochet, as he finishes blessing, says, Rebbe, I think that my time came to retire. My hand is not as firm as it used to be. So he managed to maintain the dignity of the shochet, yet make him realize that his time to retire has arrived. So it's so important to have the Ahavat Israel of loving and respecting every single Jew and never embarrass someone, made him feel bad. But that's the ultimate way of performing Ahavat Israel, loving God, loving your fellow, being sensitive, having empathy to each and every brother and sister. Thank you so much for learning with me. Looking forward tomorrow, 9 a.m. Laila Tov.